Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mental Health Month and today's 30-minute session, Unlocking Your Best Work and Well-Being. And this is a three-part series to energize, refocus, and thrive. And we're doing part one today with Liz Everett. So we'll just wait another minute for some more folks to join, and then we'll get started.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. I see some familiar faces on there.
Just as a reminder, if you have any questions for Liz during the session, hopefully we'll have some time to address them. So feel free to put those in the Q&A. And also, you should have received by email the session workbook. But just in case you missed that, I'm going to share the link in the chat for you right now.
Great. Thank you. I'll let you give me the thumbs up on when you want to get rolling.
So I've just got a few more people coming in.
Mm-hmm. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday Eve before a long weekend.
The best Fridays are the long weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks everybody for joining, and welcome to this session, part of Mental Health Month that Waypoint is presenting. And I'm going to turn you over to Liz Everett. Liz is Waypoint's Manager of People Experience and Talent Services. She's a ProSci certified change practitioner and has recently shared her work on the stepped care model tool that was developed here at Waypoint and highlighting its organizational impact on employee emotional and mental well-being at the Your Health Space Symposium 2025. So I will turn it over to you, Liz.
Great. Thank you, Cindy. And thanks everyone for joining today. You made it here, so that's already a win. I do see some familiar names on the screen for those that have joined. So happy to see you again. Some I'm wondering if they're from the Your Health Space Symposium, but this is the first, as Cindy had mentioned, part of a three-part series that I have the privilege of presenting to you in honor of our Mental Health in Motion Month for a themed series for you. This is really focused on not just helping you survive work and life and all the things in between, but actually being able to find moments and be able to thrive in those. So I'm going to keep things real. To know me is to love like wellness workshops and a lot of presentations. I'm going to keep it practical and hopefully just a little bit of fun too for everyone here. So just excited to bring this first session. If you have questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. We've kind of carved out some time at the end that we can invite people to ask those questions, or I'll try and respond to them. If I don't get to them, Shelly is going to help me do it in a follow-up, which is really great. But what we're going to do is dive right in to what it feels like to just get by and what we can do to move beyond that. This is about reclaiming your energy. It's about reclaiming that spark. And trust me, with the interactive, you'll need access to the chat feature for this. But I'm going to try and keep it as energizing as possible because I'm mindful that sometimes energy levels after lunch kind of tend to go down a little bit. So I'll try and keep this as engaging as I can. Things you might need. So Cindy did put the link to the workbook into the chat feature if you have access to that. It was also posted in advance, so if you had a chance to print that out. So having that handy, or even just some blank pieces of paper and a pen, so that you can try to start to highlight or catch moments or words or anything that might jump out at you. And then also I'm a big advocate, if you don't have water, maybe go and step out quickly and grab that, because hydration is really important too. So just some things that we're going to go through today. To start it off, though, I always like to kind of gauge the energy in the room. I think that this is really important because depending on how you're arriving is really just going to be a true reflection on how able you are to be present in these. And it's a fun way to kind of check in. So we're going to check your survival score, is what I'm calling it. And if any of these stand out to you as I ask them, you can throw a yes into the chat box. But also, more importantly, if as you're reading these and something similar starts to pop up, please feel free to share it in if you're comfortable in the chat box. I did mention we are going to get real. I am going to share a very vulnerable moment for myself. But I think that this is just a chance for us to connect in this virtual setting in all sorts of different sites. So I always consider this a huge win when I don't have to do it, my personal favorite. So if you have reheated the same cup of coffee more than twice today or in the last 48 hours, please share a yes. You can find the coffee emoji if you want and put that in there. Or if you're like silently nodding yes in your own space, you could even be still working on that cup of coffee from this morning. And I just invite you to kind of like raise it and cheers it towards the space in this virtual setting. But that for me, if I don't have to reheat my cup of coffee, is already a wellness win in a day. Second option here for the survival score, if you have ever, if you've answered an email or a text and you maybe have added in this little bit of a passive aggressive response to it, you know, we all know that kind of response where it usually starts with like, like a deep sigh, like I can't believe I'm repeating this again, or you're shaking your head in disbelief, or maybe some annoyance. But if that has come across into your world in the last 48 hours, I invite you to just put a thumbs up or another yes into that chat box. I like the unfortunately. It's okay. Lastly, if you've ever fantasized about getting away from things or just throwing your phone in the freezer, these are those like maybe those push notification sounds are now becoming the noises of your nightmares. Or you genuinely think that if you can find a space where people can't find you or access you, then things might be a little bit better. That one is for you as well. I like Julie's. Would like to retire today, right? That's excellent. Awesome. The next one, I guess, is like if just something to think about and something fun as I transition over. If you had to like take all these experiences or take this energy and survival mode check-in and maybe put it as like a movie title or a Netflix series, I would just invite you to consider what that would be. I did preemptively put this sort of my experience over the last week at least into ChatGPT with the same question. And what it came up for me was titles like Parks and No Recreation came up, and also like Deadlines and Denial. I feel like those would be like binge-worthy titles for a future Netflix series. Getting off the carousel. I love that. Surviving, Not Thriving. So if any of those titles resonate with you, trust me, you are not alone. This is like I've been there too. And this is where I'm going to share this real moment with you. And if you have had the opportunity to participate in any of my resilience talks, this has come up. So I'm going to get real for a second. I'm going to get vulnerable because I think it's important for you to know kind of who's leading or guiding this workshop. Because I am someone who's lived in survival mode for more than I care to admit. There was a day based on this graphic that you see here that I did show up to work. I was ready to deliver an executive level leadership training. So a group of about 15 leadership members, and my pants were on inside out. So that is my moment of I had no idea until I was inside the building. I was attempting to put my keys into my pocket. I don't know why it's going through there. Sorry. Attempting to get my keys into my pocket. And why did this happen? It's probably not just because I was struggling to get my teenager out of bed 5 times that morning or playing taxi for 3 different kids at 3 different schools, or even just like staying up late the night before trying to prep my notes, thinking that if I just put in this extra 30 minutes, I would feel a little bit further ahead or more prepared. The real reason is because I had been dismissing all those things and I was exhausted. I was overscheduled. And to be honest, I was in full survival autopilot. So the importance of this series is that survival mode doesn't always just scream at us. Honestly, it probably whispers at us. It shows up in those moments where we're skipping lunches or we're sending midnight emails, or there's that like low grade background noise where you're wondering, like, I don't think I can keep this up. And honestly, survival mode is also not always the villain. So sometimes these moments, just like if your emotions are attached to your tear ducts, whether you're laughing or crying or upset, or it's forgetting simple things, or waking up already tired, those aren't signs that you're failing. They're really signs for feedback. And that is where your body and your brain and your behaviors, they're giving you some really important data and letting you know it's not just burnout, it's this biofeedback. It's that inner you whispering, something needs to shift. So that moment, you know, and probably exhaustion or just overwhelmed led up to my wake up call. It led up to, hey, if I'm representing at our organization or just inside of work, outside of work, this level of well being and wellness, if I'm not practicing what I preach, something needs to give. So it took me a while to admit that, but naming it was the first step. And that's going to be one of the things that we go through today. So I think that's important for you to know. And that's part of recognizing when we're stuck in this survival mode, that self awareness piece. And it's just micro moments and being able to find our way back to the energy to beyond happy to those elements of joy and then also to finding those moments of thriving. So to do that, we're going to talk about survival mode. It's more common than we think. And like I mentioned, the signs can sneak up on us. So we're going to take a pause and see how it's showing up in your world. This is how survival mode can look like I'm fine on the outside, but it feels like treading water in a storm. There might be no rest, there might be no rhythm, it might be just reacting. So, this is an opportunity to kind of learn what your version of survival mode might look like. And to do that, we're going to name it. So, if you're feeling comfortable, I would love for you to drop like one word, or you can use those fancy emojis in the feature section there with the smiley face and drop into the chat what would best represent that. If you were to pick one word to describe what your survival mode looks like. I would love as people start to share, like I see the running on empty. I know that was a title, but I feel like that's appropriate also for this. As people are sharing, and this is great, be able to like look around and notice who else is feeling something very similar. And the intention behind this is I want us to have this sense of belonging, but also validation in this space together. I love the BAM emoji. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Body pain, fatigue, exhausted, like a zombie, Diet Coke cans, I'm sure lined up, confusion. Excellent. Being able to identify what that looks and feels like is already out of the gate. You are winning and well in advance. So now that we know what survival mode does and how it does not always show up as a breakdown or a burnout, because it's sneaking up on us quietly. And also, like, I didn't see it in there, but sometimes it can even look like skipping meals or saying yes when we really just want to say no, or even numbing out in front of the TV after a long day. The kind of series where you can get up and leave the room and come back is you're not really paying attention. You just have something on in the background. But just knowing mindless eating, those are anxiety. I'm sorry, I'm still reading. I have the chat feature on the screen in front of me. These, again, all of these can be subtle. And if it continues over time, it's going to add up. So the list in the workbook was really intended for you to start to understand what those signs of data were and what those signals are and little even tells that something might be out of balance. When we start to notice them, that's when we get our power back. So I invite you, if you have your workbook open, these are on pages 7 and 8. If you can kind of go through that, you'll see the surviving checklist and the thriving checklist. This is a chance to get you to check off any of those that might feel a little bit more familiar. And remembering that this space and the intention of the workbooks is just to complement and pair with these workshops. There is no judgment, there is no pressure. It really is just a chance to be honest and start to unpack. This is also really good if you've been kind of like pushing things to the back to bring it more to the forefront to see. So, just a chance if you want to share, you can use the chat box. But I just really want you to remember that this series isn't about doing more of fixing things. It's really about recognizing where you are. So today and over the next two sessions, hopefully you'll join. You can even just making one small intentional shift from here will really serve you. So now that you've taken a moment and if you flipped open to the workbook and got a chance to kind of go through those different categories, different areas and dimensions in your lifestyle, we're now going to take a moment to look and see how survival mode is like one step further. So not just showing up for you personally, but I'm going to ask you to zoom out and ask how this shows up for you in your work life. So I've kind of given you some examples of how it quietly sneaks in. I've asked you to kind of put like a feeling or emotion to it. But now that you have kind of gone through that checklist, and if some of them are in that more survival mode, I would love for you to zoom out and really ask yourself, how does this show up in your work life? What does survival mode look like on a Tuesday morning when your calendar might be double booked? Or that moment maybe when you're staring at your email inbox and you can't even decide what to tackle first. Which, side note, I actually have a workshop for that as well. But I want you to take a moment and consider these following prompts. So if you're considering how survival mode shows up for you at work in your day to day, what might that look like? So forgetting meetings, I love that example. Mine would be just thinking I have more time to do something and I don't, or trying to set boundaries and little fires keep coming in and I'm focused on those. These are your tells. These are your small things that let you know that maybe you need to pause, like that gas tank is veering towards that empty sign. And it's also asking you to start noticing what patterns you see about how you cope or push through those. So I see the virtual meeting overlap, feeling so behind. And sometimes that could be like if they're in two different virtual settings, you're like this master guru of trying to be in two places at once, forgetting things I wouldn't normally forget, getting days mixed up, self-doubt, ignoring my to-do list. Mine, has anybody ever come across where it's like, you know, this person is familiar, but for some reason you're not drawing on that name? That has been actually one of my biggest telltales where I'm like, I pride myself on those connections. So excellent. Okay. So now that you know how it's showing up for you, you're able to recognize that, and that's so important. We're going to talk about this theory about name it to tame it. So this is back from when we were hosting our Highway to Well sessions for emotional well-being. And it's really encouraging you to identify knowing when you're in survival mode by understanding what that looks like. And when you start to label these feelings or these moments, what you do is you start to already reduce their power and you open up this opportunity or door to change. So you guys have already identified all these. I love this. So once we name what's going on, what we're seeing when we zoomed out and we're like, this is how I know I'm acting more in survival mode at work when these things happen, we can start to change it. So this awareness, it's giving us choice. It's giving us space to do something different. Neuroscientists call this affect labeling. And this is when you can name a feeling, your brain shifts from that panic button to the prefrontal cortex where you go into like problem solving center. Basically, when you start to name it, you're moving from reacting to responding. So when we say I'm exhausted or I'm stretched or even like I'm just done with today, what that's doing is creating space for you to reset and space to shift. So gift yourself a moment throughout this workshop to really think about what your version of survival mode feels like. You've identified when those things happen. Now I kind of want you to unpack it, take it one step further. And like when you're going through those, what are you experiencing from like a physical sensation or how from a work functioning sensation? There's no wrong answer here. And it could be something like numb or buzzing or resentful or even just robot mode. I saw zombie on there as well. Whatever it is, just taking that moment to name it is really the first step to taming it. So, skill number one, name it to tame it. If that's like a tagline that you'll remember or write down, you can even put it on a post it note on your computer screen. And so that's drawing you back to those moments of just reminding you that visual prompt to create a space. So, remembering that stress isn't always the enemy. What it is information. Again, it's your body saying, pay attention. Something needs to shift. And when we now start to listen instead of powering through it, we're starting to get into that shift mode, that thriving mode. So, survival mode, it can make us reactive, but thriving mode makes us responsive. One is frantic, the other is focused. And the intention today is to give you a few quick skills that you can take away with you and maybe start to practice, see how it feels, and see if those micro shifts are really impacting. Remembering also, it's not wellness washing. It is not finding another 30 minutes to carve out to get a workout in or to have a bubble bath or to book like a full spa day. This is really getting down to more the root cause and doing quick, actionable shifts that will help and serve you. This is a strategy. So, real self care is recognizing when to shift gears. It's taking one micro action that tells your brain, you know what, I've got this. I see this. I see you. Excuse me. And here's the best part, you don't need a day off. Hopefully, like you don't need a new job. You don't need a perfect life to do this. This is really where tiny pivots count or choosing to take a breath before you reply to that email. Excuse me. That's a shift. Turning off your notifications for 15 minutes. That's a reset. Even going through and unsubscribing maybe to some emails. There's like a whole thing about social media detox. That is also a shift. Sorry. And these small moves, small shifts stack up. They move us from exhausted to empowered. Excuse me. So I'm going to take you through two more skills. And in your workbook, you'll see this framework of stop, start, and keep. The framework is simple. It really is really intuitive as you guide through it with the workbook, but it's also powerful. We're not talking about overhauling your entire life. We literally are talking about small intentional pivots that can help break this cycle of survival mode. This is giving you permission to acknowledge what's draining you and build what energizes you and hold on to what is already working. So the first piece to this is stop. What you're doing, what are you doing right now that fuels survival mode? It might be overcommitting to things. It might be pushing through exhaustion. It might be ignoring your own warning signs. This piece is not about feeling guilty or bad. It's about noticing. So when we say no more to one of these things, what we're really doing is saying yes to that thriving or healthier way forward. So this piece, beyond this workshop, I really would love for you to carve out some time and really consider what are some things that are fueling those moments where you're in survival. Once you've established that list, you can then start to move on, because this is all about self-awareness also, about things that you can start doing. This is just one small thing to create a reset. So it could be setting a micro goal for your day. It could be building in a 2-minute pause between tasks. It could be finally asking for help without guilt. These aren't grand gestures. They're tiny acts of resistance against burnout. My start, I have literally, as I walk to my car and get to my car at the end of the day, I pick a song or I pick a podcast, and that's what I'm listening to on my way home. That's what I started to do. It's been hugely helpful for me, but just a small thing that I could bring into my world. This is also something where trial and error is good. Failing forward is embraced. So one thing might not work, so you skip to the next one. Totally fine. The last one is keep. What is already working for you? If you already have some tools in your toolbox that are your go-to to recharge, or if you already have some boundaries that you're really proud of, these are those things to put on paper and identify and keep. This is also a space to not forget to celebrate what you're doing because thriving isn't about starting from scratch. It's really about doing more about what is already filling your cup. So I hope those elements in the workbook are really helpful. Even if you just pick one and start with it, that is okay. Another one is a simple resilience remix. So this one is really good because it's getting you to recognize how far you've already come. It's kind of like a resume. It's just a mindset where you can take to journaling and reflecting. And instead of on a resume where you're listing job titles or you're naming challenges that you've overcome and the strengths that you drew on and the lessons that you have learned from those. So jotting those down in a journal or taking notes in the back section of this workbook will be really helpful for you. The final two things for me that I want to be your takeaway is kind of like a call to action. This is choosing one micro move, something real small and doable that you can carry with you until hopefully we meet again next week as we talk about energy management and those shifts. Take some time and go through the list. I actually do have one that's pre-populated for you if you wanted to pull from those. And if you already have an idea of what that might be, of one small shift that you'll commit to, I would love for you to share it in the chat box again, just so people can kind of see. Write it in your notebook. You can circle it, but just remembering that every small move is a message to your brain that you're not stuck, that you're choosing to reset. So to wrap this up, I just want to give everybody like a quiet moment to jot down maybe what thriving really means for you. Why is it that you're putting in those shifts? And what energy is it that you're working towards? It's personal, it's like preemptive into next week's session, but it's really powerful to name it and to understand what feelings are generated when you feel like you're at your best and you are thriving. So this piece for thriving, again, I love, oh, and the workbook. We can post, maybe we can put the link back in again, Cindy, into the chat book or chat, enjoying my job again. Right, Courtney. So finding those moments, you'll love next week's because it's all about energy management in our day-to-day work duties and tasks and how to regroup and reset in the moment. So you will come back and visit me next week. You'll love that one. Hopefully today was okay. I know it can kind of be, we're trying to get into micro modules and stuff like that, but I just really want to thank everyone for showing up today. This is not just with your time, but honestly, with your honesty, with your energy, and with the reflections that you shared in the chat box. It really brought on this sense of like community and belonging. Today was really about remembering that resetting your mindset and choosing one small move to keep momentum going is doable, and it is something that should be celebrated. So I hope everyone takes care of themselves this week. Don't forget those tiny moves. You have a long weekend to practice different things. You do have stuff in your workbook where you can track and see how it's going. And I'm not sure if we had any questions, but I'm open for the last couple minutes if anyone wants to share, provide feedback, or ask any questions. But thank you.
So thanks for a great session, Liz. I was sitting here and I forgot that I wasn't just an attendee and that I had a job to do. So I really appreciate that. And hopefully everybody else really was into what you were saying and thinking about those moves that they can work on, those micro moves for next week. So we do have, looks like some questions we can do really quickly. A couple of them here.
I could see the one from Kelly. Oh,
Yep.
and Jamie has her hand. Yeah.
So Kelly's, how do you navigate others' responses to your newly imposing boundaries?
So I can do it from my personal experience. If others have an experience that they can quickly share in the chat box, I think that would be great. But mine is part of my resilience plan was understanding who was in my corner. And I had to get really specific about who I wanted to lean into, but also knowing who would be my best cheerleader. So for me, I was really open about, I'm recognizing myself in this and I want to bring my best self forward. And in order to do that, I need to be really specific on this boundary that I'm setting. And then it was almost like creating another opportunity for them to come up with another way or another space to book time. So it was more of like related to a time commitment boundary. And so I did then block off time for like office hours, and they were absolutely more than welcome to drop in during those times or send me an email, and I would like let them know I will meet round back with them as soon as I could. So that part of the resilience plan is having people in your corner, being able to talk to them, but also knowing those people that you can lean into, but those people also that are going to like cheer you on and check in. So hopefully that helps. And other people, I know Jamie, you shared too. That's great. And Jamie, I see your
Jamie, do you
hand.
want to share your question?
I do. I was just looking through the participation list. First of all, Liz, thank you so much. Just having that 30-minute checkpoint to really reconnect with our energy and our intentions for the day is really important. So looking through the participation list, not a single male participant, and I'm wondering if thriving and surviving are not words that resonate with the male population. Just wondering in your research, what you've come across with that.
I know from my experience as the wellness coordinator, when it came to anything with the resilience planning or framework, um, based on like a gender thing, I found males were more receptive when you were having these conversations doing an action or doing something. So like a game of pool or going for a walk or just I found that increased our way to connect. I think also maybe traditionally it's like a stigma thing too, right? It's like people reaching out and leaning in, looking for supports and services. So I'm hopeful that the more it's in the narrative and the more people kind of share, hey, I had a chance to do this workshop or I had a chance to participate in this. This is how it helped me. The more it's communicated, I'm hoping more buy-in. But you're not wrong. I also feel like maybe this is more of like a honestly, I feel like women are more verbal about it too, right? And they're more open to being vulnerable and sharing their experience. So that might also be why the participation list. But I'm hopeful the more we communicate it and get it in person and then kind of help increase that understanding of really the intention behind it. So that's why I'm hopeful maybe the recordings people will access outside of here.
Yeah, great. So thanks again, Liz, for leading this workshop series. We're off to a great start. And
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's looking forward to next week. The part 2 workbook will be sent out to everybody as well. And of course, we'll share it in next week's session.
Mhm.
So thanks for joining, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.